Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Stryve Golf Podcast. Devin here with me, as always, my guy, Shawn. How are you, dude?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just excited to be here again.
Yeah, it was like I said, it's not as sweet not seeing you down here like you were last weekend, but if I can see you over this way, this works too. This is still all right. How's the cold though? How you dealing with that?
I mean, we're pretty deep into the realms of winter depression. I'm not gonna lie, and
I
it
hate to
it
see
was
that.
it was one of those where we got a little taste of not miserable weather up here. Like I think we got into the 50s,
Right?
but
Progress.
as I look out into the forecast, winter seems to be coming back to finish off February. So our
Yeah.
hopes of an early golf season starting, I think, are bleak. So
Yeah. Stupid
that's where I'm
groundhog.
at.
Stupid groundhog, man. I blame him.
Yeah.
But with us again, our first repeat guest on the pod again is Mr. Austin Pierce. Pierce, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me, man. When you asked me to join tonight, I was really excited. So,
Yeah,
happy to be here. This is great.
yeah, glad we didn't scare you off too bad with the first one, and glad you braced us with your presence. You kind of did a double dip with me this weekend. It was awesome to have you down this weekend and enjoy some golf and some nice weather, and take the break. How I'm curious though, how was the trek back up north? My wife and I, we kind of joke, we call all the people that live up in Salt Lake, we call them wildlings now that live north of the wall. And so it's just funny to see the influx of people down here on the weekend. So I'm curious, how is the traffic going back up north?
Yeah, I'm one of them wildlings as well. I live out here in the frozen tundra on Eagle Mountain. Um, it was okay. I feel like leaving St. George was pretty good. Pretty chill. And then we got to like Cedar City and Beaver area, and there was a lot of people going through there. I could tell.
Yeah.
And then once we got past that, Fillmore opened up, and then there was a little bit of Gem and Nephi. But overall, it was
Nice.
pretty quick. I feel like tomorrow will be pretty busy because of the parade
Yeah.
of homes and everything
The
going on
holiday.
down there, and the warm weather.
Yeah. And the holiday, definitely. It's a scary combination. We don't know what to do with the influx with the holiday, parade of homes, good weather. It's a little, resources get a little scarce.
As I say, that's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of a natural disaster down in St. George for you people. Like the locals, that's where they hunker down in their bomb shelters and
we go
just
nowhere.
live off of the food storage and don't venture out. They don't want to have to deal with the northerners. It's a strange crowd. I'm not gonna lie. So
It's so stupid because I was literally that my whole life growing up until like a year ago. So it's like I have no room to talk, but it's just living here full time, like being, Monday to Thursday. It's a completely different experience, especially in the spring. But anyway, it's just awesome to have you down. It's just the best to have the OG boys back and just playing golf with you guys. It's been good the last 2 weeks. So
kind of like
anyway,
maybe it's like a visitation thing. Pierce and I just kind of alternate who's on Devon duty
you
that weekend.
you gotta keep me sane, boys. You can't.
Oh man,
It's not good for man to be alone. I need help.
Shawn, we just need to start going together. That way we can do the 2-man stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we gotta work it out. I was hoping like next weekend was originally the plan, but I think it's even supposed to be cold down in St. George. So
Yeah, we're gonna hit a little cold front, so I'm gonna hunker down. I don't think you could drag me out to the course. To
I
be
say
honest,
it's not
in
going to
those
be
conditions.
it's not going to be above 60. There's no chance Devon's getting out and playing.
Be full dress like I'm going skiing with the beanie, at the 2 gloves, everything. But
I mean, he's at the point now when he comes up here in the summer, you're probably still wearing pants and a long sleeve shirt when it's 80 degrees out. That's cold for you, right?
It was funny when we did our little venture out to Wasatch, like we always do in the fall, and we had Victor with us. So me and Victor were both like, when you look at what we were wearing, you both were in short sleeve shirt. Me and Victor pants, pullover, hoodie. Like, man, we become so soft. But you know, anyway,
No,
it's
no, you got good stuff, man. The hot weather, like I came home today and I thought, you know what, I might go for a run. And then I felt the cold wind. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna
Never
go lay in
mind.
bed. I'm done.
It's a different lifestyle for sure, but it's pros and cons. But anyway, enough of that. But I think it's I definitely want to recap that because we had a really cool experience, Pierce and I, with on the golf course. BCC National. Pierce was able to come down and break out the new sticks, which is always an exciting thing for any golfer can relate to that. What that's like, kind of the night before Christmas, man, just all giddy when you came in, dude. We were just talking about it. We're just so pumped for the next day to get out and play, but especially with the new clubs. It's been just 15 years in the making for you to get the new set. But we want to talk about that because I think that's something that we can definitely all as golfers can relate to, of just like that experience and what it's like, how we approach that. Some folks they're looking for a bargain and hopefully can find a hidden gem in the used section on the used rack. But others like to get the latest and greatest, and that's the route Pierce went, thankfully. So Pierce, talk to us about that, man, what it was like to break out the new sticks, and also just the experience kind of leading up to that. You're, like I mentioned, kind of in a particular spot being, your clubs were blades from 04, just 18-year-old technology. So I'm just curious what that experience was like, and if there was anything particular that caught your eye. It was like, yeah, these are finally the set. And I know, Shawn, you just went through something similar. So I'm really curious, as I'm always in the market. So so talk to me about it, man.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to when we were in Hawaii. I just remember when we got our rental clubs and they're the P790s, and I thought, wow, these are really, really nice. And we started hitting them and they were really smooth. And so I had that thought in my mind. I was like, you know what? If I were to get new irons, I should probably look into those TaylorMades. And so, yeah, a few weeks ago, I went over to Uinta with Tang. He came with me because he's into golf as well. So I'll come with you. I was like, all right. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to buy any clubs. I'm just going to go look. But I did want to find a 3-wood, like a Sim 2. And so I walk into Uinta and I'm looking around at the used section, and this guy working there approaches me and he's like, "Hey man, can I help you with anything?" And I was like, "Well, I'll tell you what. I have Mizuno MP37s. I've had them for the last 12 years, and I've loved them. They're blades." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, those are pretty old. You're probably looking for something new, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. You could say that." And so he's like, "Well, what are you looking for?" And I was like, "Do you have any TaylorMade P770s or 790s?" He's like, "We have a few sets of the P790s, but we have one new set left of the 770s." And I thought to myself, I'm like, no, I'll just buy used. And so there's like a $50 difference, I think, to buy brand new and used. So
Wow,
I looked
that's
into it
pretty
and I was
easy
like,
at that
yeah,
point.
yeah. He was like, "You want to get fitted?" And so I was like, sure. So he measured me up and whatnot. And I actually grabbed a couple of my Mizuno irons and brought them in there and just held them up to compare. And sure enough, I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So I put the order in, and instead of getting a Sim 2 3-wood, I got a TaylorMade Stealth 3-wood. It was literally the same price for a used club. So like, why not go with new, right? Have yourself a day. So it was one of those days. I'm like, what did I just
that's
do?
that's a great day to have.
Yeah, it was
Those
good. And
those days usually coincide with payday for me, where the check comes in and quickly
It's as out
leaves.
as quickly as it came in.
oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. Um, yeah, so I ordered those clubs and then I picked them up a few days later, and they were sitting in my closet for a week. And I was like, man, this is driving me crazy seeing these beauties sitting in this closet. So I texted you. I was like, hey, I should come down and play. I think that it's a good weekend. And you're like, yeah, come down. I was like, all right. So Jenny and I hopped in the car and came down. And sure enough, we busted them out in the course. And I didn't really know what to expect. First few swings were, decent. I think I caught the first few a little bit thin. But as the day went on, it just started feeling so smooth. And I just told myself to make the same swing as you always do with your other irons and just stay smooth. And that made the biggest difference, was just the tempo and just not trying anything crazy. And man, those clubs are amazing.
Yeah, I can attest to that, because I was almost nervous for you, because I know what it's like to break out a new set. Like, you kind of feel this like obligation of like, okay, well, it's my brand new club, spent all this money on it, all this time, I'm all excited, like I better stripe it right off the rip. But that's kind of some undue pressure, but you handle it like a champ. And just our third hole, man, just never forget that. We're like So we were playing, it was number 12. We started on 10. Shawn is number 12, that dog leg right. Pretty tough hole. Wind was like slightly off the right. And I think Pierce has been hanging out with me too much because off the tee, he did a little toey hook, little Debbie hook. So he had like 220 out to the pin. It's back right behind that bunker, 220, wind off the right. Dude, he just stripes this 4-iron, looks so freaking pure, just doesn't leave the pin, hits it pin high, and just makes like the most just a run of the mill par from 220 out. But I mean, it was just like, we're just both in awe. Like, these things are so pure. They sounded incredible. And it just like was just buttery. But so that was sick. But I was curious, Pierce, like for you when you were getting fit and like going through that, was there any like, was it just like the feel? Was it the look? Was it the numbers that you were seeing like on on the TrackMan, or was it just like a combo of that, or like what was like the big like, yeah, I think these are the ones?
Yeah, I've just always heard good things about TaylorMade P770s and the 790s, so I was after those specifically, and I just loved the way they looked first of all, and I was like, I got to hit a few of these, and so he's like, yeah, hit a couple, and I like the way they feel. I mean, I caught a few of them fat, but I feel like overall they were really smooth. I was like, all right, it was a no brainer for me. I feel like once I had the feel of it and the look, like, yeah, I'm doing these. It was quick and painless.
quite the improvement. That face, man, the worn out face on your Mizunos of like right in the center is just blew my mind every time. I couldn't have that same wear pattern, but yours were just, it's quite the difference. But
those, I wanted to touch on one more thing.
Yeah.
On number 12, hitting that 4-iron from 220. I thought to myself, I'm gonna lay up. I'm gonna go a little bit left and just maybe have a chip on for a par, or even maybe like a putt up the fringe. And right as I hit that thing, it was in the air and it was going right over the bunker. I'm like, oh no, that's probably short. It's probably right in the bunker. And
Yeah,
sure
you're
enough,
like, that's short. I remember you said that. That's short.
and then I see it bounce over the bunker, and it was just like, whoa, no way. I couldn't believe it. I'm a big believer, and I have a testimony of those new irons and new technology. So
I was
thank you
say,
both.
like, yeah, I was like, imagine if you were to hit that a 4-iron of the Mizunos, man. It's like no chance is that carrying that. Like, let's just be honest. Like, so that's yeah, that's good. Shawn, I know you just kind of did something similar, and you were able to bust them out last weekend on, what a birthday weekend. What a blessing.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk to us about your experience. I'm curious.
Yeah. So I think too, just to highlight on a couple of things that Pierce brought up, that sort of trends in the golf industry too, where it mentioned how they didn't have a whole lot of stock in store, and then also just how used clubs were almost as expensive as new clubs. And so I think just want to hit on that just in the golf world too, where it's like golf has become super popular just ever since sort of the pandemic kicked off, just because it was something that you could do kind of without restrictions for the most part, right? It was outside, so a lot more people sort of got into it, and then with that, the kind of uptick in equipment demand, and then coupled with kind of a lot of the other global issues going on, right? Like all of a sudden, it's hard to get golf equipment in at stores, and so you're seeing that, right? Where it's like it's hard to go in and find stuff on the shelf, and then these stores are obviously like charging super high prices even for used clubs too. So it's kind of a crazy time to be in the market for clubs. I was pretty lucky with mine. So I would consider myself I don't know, a ping loyalist. Yeah. So this would be
that's a thing.
My third set in a row of ping irons. So it started like 8 or 9 years ago, because I remember there was a kid on my high school golf team. He had like this sick set of ping irons I always thought were so cool. And so I remember when I got home from my mission, it was one of those things where my parents were like, okay, when you get back, that'll be kind of your birthday present, right? For being gone for the couple of years, we'll go get you a set of irons. So basically the whole mission, I had that to look forward to. I'm like, oh, okay, what irons am I going to get? I was super pumped about that. And I kept thinking back on these Ping irons that this kid had in high school. And so I remember getting home and kind of looking up those irons and seeing that Ping had released basically a new model of those same irons. So I remember going to Uinta and swinging those and thinking, oh yeah, these are sweet. These are the ones I want. And so got those without really getting fitted or anything. And then, I mean, absolutely loved those clubs. And then Ping released, had another set of clubs that came out a couple years after that I thought, oh, those look really sweet. So just went ahead and bought those off the shelf. And I like those a lot too. Just I'd say they pretty similar. For the most part, I'm like, yeah, it's one of those where it's like, I didn't want to, like, why keep looking, right? If you were happy with what you got. So I think that's kind of one reason I've stuck with Ping. And then this most recent set was probably the set I was most excited about, because it's basically it took my last two sets that I've had and kind of combined them. So it's got more of like the forged feel of the first set of irons I have, but then it's got more of and it also has more of like the blade look of the last pair of irons I had. Cause the last pair of irons I had, they looked like blades, but they were super forgiving and they were more distance irons than anything. But these new irons that came out that Ping did, it's definitely more of a player blade looking like iron, with some forgiveness in it. So I was super pumped when Ping announced them. So I remember they started showing up on tour probably last April or so.
Mm-hmm.
So like every week or two, I was trying to like scroll through Ping equipment news releases, trying to figure out when they were going to finally get released to the public. Went through all summer, hadn't heard anything, got into the fall, still nothing. Then finally, I think it was in October or something, Ping finally put out like releasing Ping I-59 irons or whatever. So I was like, oh, finally. So as soon as they announced the release date, I called up a fitter and got scheduled and just say, hey, I want to get fitted for these Ping irons. And my thought process was because, I mean, even back then it was still like 6 months ago, it was still hard to find clubs in the store and whatnot. So my idea was like, okay, if I go through a fitter, maybe I'll have a better chance of being able to get them kind of in a timely manner. And so, yeah, I ended up going through a fitter more just to get access to the club, I think, being able to actually swing them kind of before I bought them. Yeah. And maybe the fitting was a second reasoning behind it. But yeah, so this was really the first time I'd gone through a fitting. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting, honestly. So the way it worked is he had me hit a bunch of swings with my clubs just to kind of establish sort of a range of numbers of a lot of different metrics they look at. Mm-hmm. And what that ended up bringing out is the guy's like, honestly, like, you're hitting these really good. Like, these numbers are good. I mean, is there any real reason you want new clubs? And honestly, I'm just like, I just want new clubs, right? Because it's an every couple year thing, right? You start to get that itch. And so what we ended up doing is he's like, okay, well, if you're hitting the ones you have now pretty good, I would recommend just getting the same shaft that you have in your existing irons, and let's just build it on to these new heads. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And so, like, I love that because, like, the feel is pretty similar. Like, that's one thing when you get new clubs. I think that's really like the biggest difference is you feel it in the shafts. Mm-hmm. So to have that familiarity, I think, was really good. I mean, admittedly, though, I paid more for this set of clubs with that kind of custom shaft build out than I've ever paid for a set of clubs, and I'll probably be paying them for several years, honestly. But we won't worry about that as much.
Take that offline.
Yeah, it was cool to go through and that process and really, like, actually build a set of clubs. Honestly, my thought was honestly not playing as much golf realistically over the next couple years, like I could invest a little more in clubs, just knowing that I'll probably go a little longer until I get a new set. So I figured I could splurge a little and actually build out a set and know that it's sort of been tested up against um, on a simulator and numbers played out, so I can feel pretty confident that I've got the right setup for my swing. Because I feel like my swing would hold up with a lot of clubs for the most part. But it's just kind of nice to have that reassurance, knowing that okay, I mean, if I make a good swing, then the iron's going to respond how I expect it to.
Mm.
And yeah, I've only played with them once, but I was pretty pleased with them, and
so
I'm
far so good.
excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see what this summer holds. And I mean, I think having been a little skeptical of the whole fitting process, kind of going into things, I've always thought like, yeah, I don't know if it's worth the extra money you pay. But having gone through the fitting experience, I would say it's worth it. Just to, I think it just gives you more options per se. Because like, I think it gave me more access to a bunch of different shafts to try out swinging. They can build you a lot more clubs to try out, I think, if as opposed to just kind of going to a Uinta or even a Superstore with like they've got some combinations, but the guys aren't really club experts to the extent of like a fitter, right? Where they have to actually go through some extra training
Mm-hmm.
and behind like club building and all that. So I think that was good just to get a better feel of like everything that's out there. So I think personally I would go through it again just to get sort of the full range of possibilities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's that's really interesting. I love because I know you both really well, and it's funny to see your different approach in purchasing the clubs. Like shocker, the accountant starts off right off the rip with the supply, the demand, the financials of of breaking it down, which is no, it's fantastic. I'm honestly envious of that. And then we have a fellow sales guy up here that's just like, I'm just here for what looks and feels good.
I
And I'll buy
know,
it, which,
man.
dude, I love it. Like, and I can honestly say, like, for good or for worse, I think I default a little bit closer, and just like the way our games are, like more of like I'm just a feel guy, like Pierce is. And so it's just kind of like whatever feels and looks good. And I'm kind of like with you, Shawn, in that I try to be like I'm kind of like a brand loyalist, like with a lot of things, like outside of golf, with just clothing and just all of this stuff. Like I kind of am a sucker for that. I'm not going to lie. So it's like I kind of have like this weird Titleist bias where like I really want all my stuff to be that way, but I want to be open to know and to have, that experiment I went through with my wedges of like I wanted to try the Callaways, the TaylorMades, the Vokeys, the Clevelands. And I think I've fallen on Cleveland, but so I'm open to it. And that's thanks to you, even though I was a biased, Vokey guy, but I just personally think those the Clevelands are better. They just feel better. But it's just interesting to hear that approach and just how different, because it's like with most things, like golf is just so personal. Like, yes, there are the foundational mechanics, but how you go about that is so different. And so I would just, it's interesting, and it's really got me, itching and curious, like probably have new clubs in the bag here soon. I would assume, if I know myself, but it's just it's interesting, and I just like I can appreciate that like on both sides, and like the both of your guys' approach at that, and just what that experience was. And I also just feel like I don't know if it's because if I were to be completely honest and frank, like I know some of the folks that work at that are certified club fitters that work at these like super intense I don't know, where did you go, Shawn? Was it a Golf Tech or Impact?
No, I went to a place called Club Champion.
Oh, okay, yeah, like Spieth's in those
Yeah,
commercials, right? Like
yeah, and
okay.
they'd done a bunch of work on my putter for me a couple
That's
years
right.
ago.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's how I found them
that's
originally.
right.
So I was like, oh, I'll go
Yeah,
back to them.
which makes total sense. Like I just know like a few dudes that I know, and Pierce, I think you know who I'm talking about. Like, I wouldn't personally take any golf advice from this guy, like for multiple reasons. But so I was always just like, those are like, I'll shy away from that. Like, no thanks. Like I said, I'm already a field player. So if it looks good and it's a good brand, like I'll figure it out and I'll figure out how to hit them. But I do think there is some value in establishing like a base and just knowing, getting kind of that initial like question mark answered of, yes, like Pierce, you're taller. You needed a half inch extended and I think like 1 degree upright. And when I went and when I was going to get my Titleist just through our Titleist rep up at South Mountain, he's just like, yeah, meet me at River Oaks. We do this, Thursday Titleist day. And I hit like 8 balls and I don't know if it's just, he knew he wasn't going to get his markup commissioned on him or what, but he was very nonchalant. He's like, yeah, you got a good swing. You have a lot of turf interaction, but you're standard everything. Here's your specs. Peace. And I was like, cool. Like that was perfect for me. Like I was glad he didn't kind of like try to break down my swing and like, well, you're really steep and you hit these cuts. Like it was an enjoyable experience for me. It was like just what I needed. So I think everyone is just so different in that approach, but can appreciate that.
Yeah, there was this the guy who helped me at Ueno was really nice, and he was an older gentleman, and he was just really respectable, and he knows my dad pretty well. And so I had no idea, but I went in there and we started talking, and then it was just really quick and easy. But when it comes to things like this, I'm not like a very good planner. Anything in life I do, I don't really plan very well.
Well, you're not an accountant, right, Shawn?
I just go for things, and sometimes it bites me in the butt. Sometimes it works out for the greater good. And so I'm hoping with these irons, this is going to work out for the greater good.
It's paid off. After that round on Saturday, it's already worth it, man. I saw the whole thing. It was great. But and that's funny to even like, and also speak of your dad, just the freaking that dude has tried out every club that's been out since 96. And that guy, like, I mean, and there's those type of players that, he really capitalized on that 90-day guarantee and trades them in and gets a fit. But if you ever have any questions about, what clubs and what irons are the best, that dude is a good one to ask because he'd hit them all. So, yeah. But there's like, I could never do that. Like, cause I feel like that's like when I really start to get like used to them is, a month or two after, that's when I really get comfortable with them. But for guys like him, man, he's just the latest and greatest and it works and he's a stick. So especially for his age, man. So it is just so personalized, right? But anyway, I was also curious, like, did you guys ever have to feel, this is something that I honestly don't like, because we just had Victor, I was just with him. He, of course, no surprise to anyone, cracked another face on his driver after only having this M5 for a year. I watched him bowl. He's cracked 2 in the last year. It's just unreal how hard he hits the ball. So we go to Vegas and we go to the PJ Superstore, and you're right, Shawn, like this guy, like, I mean, he obviously knew more about the stuff than I did, than that Victor did. But I think overall it was, and they didn't really have all of the specs and all this stuff, but it just seemed like, hitting it off the simulator. I'm also a little skeptical on numbers there. I think they prop them up a little bit to make them look a lot better than they actually are, but I digress. It was interesting to like feel the need to almost like justify my like Victor swing and like how good of a player he was. Cause on the simulator, he was just hitting these like big hooks and it was saying it was like 40 yards off mark. And it was like, that's just not really Victor. Like, that's not him. Like, you don't know how good of a player he actually is. So I was just curious, like, did you all feel that at all? Like this weird obligation to be like, trust me, I know what I'm doing, but like, I want your insight. Did you not want their insight? Like on swing stuff? Like, what was that like for you, especially you, Shawn, kind of getting into like a very formal fitting, like at a place like that? Like, I'm curious, did you feel that way at all?
I mean, I was worried about that going into it, because I mean, this will sound really douchey, but going into like a lot of these places, my thought just at the rip is I'm a better player than whoever's helping me.
It's the Ron Swanson when he walks into Home Depot and just, can I help you?
Yeah.
I know more than you. Like, that is the most perfect thing. Like, I'm a better player than you, guy. Just settle down.
So I admittedly, and it's probably not fair, I'm overselling myself big time, but so one, it's like having that. And so going into it, I sort of have the expectation where I'm going to tune out a lot of that. Just, I know I'm going to tune it out. What I really want the guy to help me with is I just want you to build the clubs for me. Just let me hit it. I'll read the simulator and interpret the numbers that I'm most concerned about.
Yeah.
I don't care about a lot. Like, he was pointing out some of these numbers, and I had never heard of any of them. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to help me make par. Like, there's a couple of things I was specifically looking at. And if he would talk about anything else, I wasn't super interested. And
Yeah.
it sounds like I really liked the guy. He was super helpful. And
For sure.
I didn't feel like he was very salesy. And he even waived the fitting fee for me, which was super nice
cool
of him. But yeah, I mean, going into it, I was worried about that, but I just know ahead of time I'm going to kind of tune things out. And then luckily, I'm not going to lie, the first 5 I hit, it was just one line, just dead straight. Just I couldn't have hit him any better. So the guy, I was like, oh, maybe he can play. So I luckily I didn't have to deal with that, just because for whatever reason I happened to hit the first 5 really good.
Yeah.
And
That's
sort of set that precedent. So
no surprise there. But Pierce, how was it for you? Like, did you feel any sense of like obligation, or does that even bother you that you just tune that out? Like, what was it like for you?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really feel that too much. I think it was like 2 or 3, and I had my mind made up. They didn't really question me. Like, when I went in there, I asked for the P770s, and they're like, well, we don't have any used ones. We only have one new set, and there's not going to be another new set for 3 months in here. So here's these. He's like, I can tape this and you can hit it. I'm like, sure. It was a 7-iron. So I hit like 2 or 3, and I think I caught one like fat and then hooked the other one and whatnot. So it was really annoying. But overall, it worked out great.
Yeah, obviously. And like I said, like, we got fundamentally sound enough swings that I personally just have the opinion, it's just whatever you think looks and feels the best. Like, that's the biggest thing that I'm kind of, that I think. So
like, I would say too, my like, this whole idea of wanting to go get fitted for my next clubs, it really started right before I heard about these new pings coming out, because my thought is I wanted to build a mixed set of irons. So I was leaning toward the TaylorMade, because the TaylorMade line of irons, they offer kind of a blade ranging into a cavity back kind of iron. So, and they've designed it in a way that you can mix and match it, and the lies and lofts all work out. So you can have it kind of a seamless one bag of different irons. So the idea was have more of a blade for the shorter irons, and then as you get into the 5s and 4-iron, get more to the so that was the original thought for me. And that was why, okay, I want to go to a fitter, because that's going to be a lot easier to custom order, was the idea. But then these ping irons came out, and I mean, I thought I was still going to try to do something similar, where these new irons are more of a blade-like iron. So I thought, oh, maybe I can do a blade leading into more forgiving long irons. But then it was funny, because then when I went to go get fitted, he had me hit 6-irons for whatever reason. And so just seeing like, oh, I can hit this 6-iron blade, like, it's not going to be an issue. So kind of the mix set kind of got thrown out the window. But yeah, I think that was really what created the idea of getting fitted for me, was wanting to potentially do more of a custom order, that I think a place like where I went was just going to be more accommodating than trying to do it at like a Uwena or a Superstore. Because then at that point, I think you're dealing with, well, we could order like 2 clubs and then these other 3, and then who knows when it all gets there, right? But these fitting places are pretty dialed in with the manufacturers. So
no, that's it. That is a good point. And I think that's kind of a newer concept, at least for me. But I do think that's like really cool, because I thought the same thing. Like, I looked at, I know they have like sets where you can do a combo of, the pitching wedge through 9-iron is, like the TaylorMade MB, which is like more of a blade, and then could feed into like an MC or to like a 770 or 790. So it is a really good idea. I think generally that fits well for most players. as that's kind of where the forgiveness is needed in those longer irons. But
I would say too, I would say that I would only be interested in getting fitted for irons. Just because, I mean, I don't need to do that for wedges. Wedges to me is just how does it look? And if it looks good, I'll make it work.
Yeah.
And drivers, I cannot stand trying to hit into a simulator using that rubber tee and stuff. So
no chance.
My driver fitting is whatever driver you buy, Devin. I'll copy the specs, and it's worked out. It's worked out pretty well. So having you switch to the extra stiff shaft in your driver now, I think I'll go ahead and do that with my next driver as well.
Why not?
I don't need to go get tested. Yeah, I figure just give me the lowest spinning shaft in that model, and I'll try an extra stiff, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that too. Whenever I go in the simulators, I feel like whenever I hit like a driver or really anything, it says you have like an 84-yard slice. It's like, really? It's like the line's here and it's just like slices all over here. I mean, yeah, sometimes I slice the ball, but I don't think it's that dramatic.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm gonna catch something like on my backswing, like especially you, Pierce. You're taller. You really extend. You like get your power. Like I would be tripping, like feel like I'm gonna hit the roof or hit the sidewall, and they don't make those stupid rubber tees. I mean, they don't make them long enough for my type. For my
you would need to tape two of them together to even scare a good height for you.
Talk about a makeshift iron, man. I need to makeshift this tee right here. So yeah, I'm just more of like whatever looks good, feels good, just get it and you'll figure it out. And again, Pierce is a very good example of that. Just like, dude, this looks good. I got my mind made up. I'm gonna buy them, cop them, and take them out and shoot under par real quick. So anyway, I like that, but it's definitely top of my mind, selfishly, because I do. I got the 718s, the AP2s, so a little seasoned, and I've played a little bit of golf since getting them, so might warrant the new set. So
I think like to kind of put a bow on things too, I think if anybody was looking at buying clubs, irons especially, I'd say regardless of your skill set or regardless of how you go about making club purchases, because there are people that I know I come across as like super extreme by the numbers, wanted to see it on the computer, but I feel like there's people that are way, way more on that side of the spectrum. Like they live and die by the computer simulator stuff, right?
Nope.
And I would say, like, regardless of where you fall on that spectrum, I would say it's worthwhile to at least get swings up, whether it's on a simulator or even just on a demo days or whatever. At the end of the day, I think you got to take swings and hit actual shots with potential clubs that you're buying. Because a lot of them are going to feel pretty similar. So I think really like what I would recommend is like go to a golf equipment store, pick out 2 to 3 that you like the look, you like the way it looks in a golf bag. Say, hey, I want to hit those. And you should know after a couple swings, like which of those tend to feel better. I think.
I totally agree. And if I could like my advice would be to, if you can find a demo days like that I feel like personally is the best, just because you get real turf interaction. You get to actually see the flight of the ball. Like there's just something about that I feel like is really beneficial rather than a simulator, even though that's a great option, especially for you wildlings up there. Sometimes you don't have that option, but I would say if you can, a demo days is really, really key. And being able to have, hit real balls on the range to see that, I feel like is big. 'Cause that's what I had too. So,
I mean, I think
it's so different, right?
I think too is like, if it seems probably overwhelming because there are a ton of clubs on the market, right? There's dozens of brands and they each have, I don't know, 5 or 6 different models of irons, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I think you go off looks first, because there's probably some characteristic, brand or looks, because there's obviously some kind of characteristic that you like. Mm-hmm. And once you identify that characteristic, really it brings it down to there's probably only a handful that you're interested in just to look at. And so I think that makes your decision easier. And then at that point, it's just get a couple swings up, and then probably you just got to sort of stomach whatever price you're comfortable to pay, mixed with how well it feels. And it's just not something I would ever think too hard about, right? Like end of the day, I want my irons to look cool in the bag and
to
feel good when I'm standing over the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think you guys are both good examples of that. And kind of speaking of that, this is something like an idea that I'd love to do for a future episode, because I get a lot of questions just like over time, whether if it's from someone who lives in my neighborhood or someone at work, or like, hey, I'm getting my son or my daughter into it. Like, and I get a lot of texts of like, what should I do? Should I go to the superstore, or should I go to Walmart and buy a Wilson complete set bag? Should I go try and find some used clubs? And there are just so many options out there, especially just like with how, I mean, there's no secret that golf is pretty expensive, and it can, I mean, just the price of the new drivers now, it's wild that that's the starting price point. And in addition to, the new Callaway, there's like freaking 4 or 5 different types of Callaway new drivers. Like what? Like there's just so much there. So I think it's like an idea that I would love to do is building a bag on a budget, and like we'll kind of do some homework and come back with say like $700, which it sounds like a lot, but again, that's close to the price point of just one new driver now. So it's like, if you can designate $700 to a full bag, like we'll do some like investigating through like eBay, Facebook, the marketplace, golf club trader pages, things like that, and come back and present how we would build the bag on that budget. And I think that can give, even if it's just like an iron set or maybe like a 3-wood or a putter or, any type of like older driver, just ways that we can build that out. Cause I think that's really insightful and can be really helpful for especially people just, not wanting to, spend a whole paycheck on one club, for example. So I think that's something we'll do in the future here. And I'd love to have, to have you both participate and just kind of come back and report on, what you found, and like real clubs that are for sale that you could buy, and just kind of present that. I think that's a fun exercise and could be helpful to the beloved listeners if they're still out there. So
could I cheat and just use like any one of like my 3 backup sets or whatever?
Hey, if you're willing to sell it, if we get someone to reach out and it's like, hey, I like Shawn's idea of that wedge set, I want to buy them for, $50 a pop or whatever, hey, if you're willing to sell it.
I have to offer the disclaimer that some of them have been tossed a few too many times. So,
and they've been, I was going to guess what the over or under is on how many balls you've cracked slapping those balls in the garage. My bet was, I always bet the over. So it's got to be over 2 in the last, say, year. It's got to be over 2.
Oh, in the last year? Yeah. I mean, I bet I've cracked 25 golf balls.
Wow.
Hey, always bet the over. See, that just like growing up, I remember like Pierce, you remember like on your hoop and my hoop, like the nets that we would have, and like it was like such a flex to like rip up your basketball net, so you'd have to get the chain net so you couldn't rip it up. That's like such a flex, right? But that's like Shawn. He's that way with gloves and balls, dude. He just rips gloves for days and cracks balls because he hits them so pure,
so good.
Yeah. And it's 20 degrees, it might firm those balls up just a little bit, but I just find it hilarious.
This winter I've learned I bring them inside every day. I think it's helped. I've cracked much fewer this winter than in previous.
Incredible.
winters, so.
Proud of you. Proud with your sandpapered hands. I go, the only way I wear out gloves is just going through the Velcro. I don't know. Shawn stands, he gets 2 rounds in and he rips them. Pierce, are you like that? Or do your gloves last like a good amount of time?
Well, first and foremost, I lose a lot of my gloves, I think, and then they end up being in my bag. So I have like 10, and then I use 1 each time. I'm like, just pay attention where you putting this stuff, dude.
You gotta get a new bag. Shout out Jones.
No, dude, I need to get one. But sometimes when I do have like a glove that I do use for a while that I'm consistent with, I feel like it gets crispy, and like I continue to use it, and it's like, why am I doing this? And then it'll just rip like right there, super hard, like right grip.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if what it is. I can honestly, I think I've only ripped like 2 gloves ever, and it was because they got soaked, and and then I ripped them that way. But I don't know.
I would-
It just baffles me.
Interesting.
Shawn
I
just
would say I have an absolute max of, because it's probably a round or two and then a range session. So every round or two, there's a range session mixed in. I would say I'm maxing at about 10 rounds of golf before I torn through a golf. And I'll play a round of golf or two with that tear, like the tear I sent you a picture of last night. Like I still swung for a couple more days. So I don't know.
my mind.
I don't know. I think it's a sign that I'm doing something wrong
Oh no,
potentially,
no,
but
it's
yeah,
Right.
it's so funny. The Velcro's still pure. The rest
Oh.
of the glove, it still looks brand new. So I've
That-
just got a recurring monthly order on Costco golf gloves, really. So
those
just a
K6s,
fresh box every month. Just
That
keep
is-
them coming.
put it on the shopping list. Dude, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I was curious. I'm gonna keep track. So I bought a new Titleist glove at Turtle Bay. Has like a little Turtle Bay like ball mark on it. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, that one right there.
Let's
So
go.
I have that same one, and I'm gonna keep that, and I'm gonna see. I've already played. I don't know. I've played a lot since I've been back from Hawaii, and so I'll let you know when I switch it out. But it's had quite the
I
time.
bet when I came down there and played, that was my first round of golf with that glove. And so the next time I play, we'll probably be with you down there as well, and we'll see if I make it through round 2 with that glove.
Fingers crossed. Oh man, that's hilarious.
Amazing.
That's good stuff, man. I appreciate the insight, and it's got me jittery, man. I wanna pull the trigger on some new sticks, but I just think it's always top of mind, and us, golfers have this reoccurring need to look at new clubs. But I think it's a good stuff. Pierce, you have kind of a thought? Do you have a thought there?
Yeah, I just have a question. Sorry. I wanted to ask you guys, like, say for instance, you use like a brand new golf ball and it lasts you for the full 18 holes. How much longer do you keep using that ball?
Till it finds its way into the water, which is usually not very long after. So I don't have to worry too much about that.
I know it's funny. Like I think like playing at Bloomington, there's a couple of holes that water's definitely in play, like a couple of the par fives that is definitely in play. But so I mean, I am kind of weird with that too. Like when I see like a pretty big scuff on it, especially if I can see it when I'm putting, like because I use the line. If I can see anything else besides the line, I won't play with it. So I don't know. It has been different because playing at Southie, it was like, dude, if it's a decent ball, I'm playing it because I'm gonna lose it here
still
pretty
round.
quickly.
If it's still round, I'll tee that puppy up. And
Exactly.
send it
So
there.
it's just funny being like playing at a course that's not as scarce with balls like South Mountain. Like I have become like a little bit more picky with them.
Have you had to buy golf balls since you've gone down there?
So shout out to my wife. She bought me some. She's bought me two. She heard me kind of talking about the TP5s, and I was kind of on a TP5X high. So she bought me some of those. I can't remember what it was for. So I still have some of those. And then she bought me the triple track Titleist balls because I really like those. When she first bought them, she did it by mistake. I think it's for Easter. She bought them for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was looking, I was like, oh, these are great. They have the lines on them. And I think don't have a great poker face, I guess. She's like, oh no, what did I do? I'm like, well, these have 3 lines on them, but I'll play them anyway. I'll try them out. And that ended up being like the ball of the summer. And I've played it all summer and I really like those. So, but other than that, like, yeah, I haven't outside of those, but there's just nothing like teeing up a brand new ball.
I was just curious because you don't find golf balls really at Bloomington.
Yeah, no, not really. But that's the nice thing is you don't lose them too often.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway. But no, Pierce, you have excess balls picking the range, and I mean, I was just so envious. I look at the back of your trunk, you just have just balls for days, like, and they were decent balls. Like, you could start a side hustle and started to siphon those off to folks. But so I'm sure you're probably just like, just grab any ball and tee it up and swing it.
Yeah, for the most part, I don't think my back can handle picking that range anymore. I'm getting old.
Well, that's we'll save that because that could be a whole nother episode, just some Southeast stories.
Oh boy.
Just settle in.
Where do we
My
start?
word. Oh gosh. We'll get canceled if we go too into detail, but yeah, I think that's good. Good stuff, and appreciate the insight. So let's talk and kind of move on to the Genesis. Like, what a sick tournament, but it's kind of funny coming off the high of like, the wasted management, man. Like, what a, like, having a playoff, having that atmosphere, and then you come to, Riviera, and it's just such a different vibe, but it doesn't like take away from how cool and how good that golf course is. Like, it just is so sick. So Shawn, take us there, man.
Yeah, so I mean, top to bottom, I think Riviera, from a course standpoint, is probably one of the stronger stops on tour for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd put it up there with the majors, honestly, every year, just of how much fun I have watching this tournament. So a little bit interesting this year, where the leader or the winner, Joaquin Newman, and he played so well. He just he
Coast to coast.
ran and hid pretty much. So it never really was in doubt. I guess Morikawa made a little bit of a charge this afternoon, but for the most part, the outcome was never really in doubt. So it put a little bit of a damper on the tournament, I thought, because you always like to see close tournaments. But same time, it gave me a chance to really hone in and watch some holes. I think I saw some more coverage of the front nine this year than I have in previous years, and there's just a lot of good holes on that course. They range from longer fours that play tough, but there's still plenty of short fours that have a bunch of trouble as well. And it's just really the classic golf course, pretty tree lined, a lot of movement in the fairways. The greens are small with a lot of undulation, and it was pretty fun this year where it got noticeably harder as the tournament advanced, right? So Thursday and Friday, you saw some pretty low scores. Conditions were soft, and they were maybe a little friendlier with some of the pins. But by today, they had firmed that course up. The wind picked up, and they put pins in some tough spots today, and you could really see how tough Riviera was. I always kind of gauge it just on how many greens guys are missing from the fairway, right? Because how many times do you see a guy hit a shot today from the fairway, like, oh, that's right at the pin, but he landed it right next to the pin, takes a huge bounce off that firm green, and a lot of these Riviera greens are teardrop shaped, right? So everything runs away. But there's a lot of fun on that course. I mean, shout out Joaquin. What a display of golf. He's always a good ball striker. His putting's always been his weak spot, but this week he was top 10 in putting, married with an absolute just ball striking clinic, and just no one could catch him. Like, it's pretty impressive in a professional golf tournament to see the separation that you saw this weekend.
Yeah. From a 23-year-old, like, and just like I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw his swing, I was kind of like, when he first came on tour, I'm like, it was bendy like that. That dude is flexible. Like, he just shallows it out, puts it in that slot, and he just really dips down and gets it. And it's quite the sight. And I feel like that's becoming like this, like the new trend in golf, of like a golf swing of gotta shallow out the club, At least that's just feel like what I'm kind of hearing. And his is like the picture perfect, shallowing out the club, getting into that slot, really holding it off. And the dude is not a big guy, but he just absolutely hammers it. And it's fun to watch. So yeah, I was super impressed with that. And it really was, coast to coast. It did I was kind of hoping in the back that it would kind of, not that he would stumble, but he made like 2 bogeys, and I was like, oh, maybe, like, just maybe. But then, there really wasn't a point where it felt too close. But that course, like, for me, it always just reminds me of Pierce playing Tiger Woods on the Xbox at your house, man. Riviera, like, that first tee shot is so sick, like, elevated, just rip it off. And then like number 6 with the famous bunker right in the middle of the green. Like, I just remember we always would play that. We'd always play that course, and per usual, I suck at that game. I don't understand why I suck so bad at that game. But whenever I think of like PGA, the Tiger Woods game, it it was at Riviera. But it does show like so good on TV. Love the like 10 is such a cool hole. So interesting. Like that stretch from like 13 on is just like, it really captures your attention, and just it's a good finish with like the 16, that par 3 with all those ghost trees. Again, I don't know if they're really called ghost trees, I don't really know, but they're spooky. And it's like I always think of the stupid tree on at Mountain View, dude, number 10, right to the left side, because like 50% of the time I'm stymied right behind that stupid thing, like 200 yards out, got to hit that big sling and hook or a big cut around it. So I'm just like, this freaking ghost tree, man. It's spooky back there, but I do love it. It's a cool finish, and it was cool to have like 17's a cool par 5, and then 18, it was cool to have all the fans back and just completely fill that natural amphitheater right behind the green. Because didn't really have that last year, and you know, paying homage to my boy Max Homa with my, I guess you can call this a mustache, but you know, what a win last year. I'm still riding that high, and you know, he played pretty good.
Yeah,
And
top 10 finish
right,
this year. So
it was cool. Like after like the first and second round, I'm like, dude, he's vibing, man. This could be cool. But it was fun. So but again, Pierce and I were, we were busy playing some golf, unfortunately. But didn't watch too much, but was able to watch the finish. But any thoughts on like your perspective, Pierce?
On the tournament?
Yeah, the tournament or the course, or
I just know, like, from watching past years, I didn't watch too much this weekend, but I caught a little glimpse at your place. I think we saw Justin Thomas hit that really good, like it was either a long iron or a 3-wood, and it was right at the green, and it was like sitting right there, and then it hit that false edge that Shawn was talking about.
Yeah,
rolls all the way down. Like, that's just tough.
Yeah.
That course is challenging. So like Joaquin Neiman to shoot 19 under, wasn't he 19 under through like the first 2 days, or 16 under?
Yes, I think he shot even today, right? Or pretty close.
Yeah, so he went 63, 63, so 16 under after 36, and then he shot 3 under on Saturday. So he was 19 under through 3 rounds.
At one point, I think he was like 21 at one point.
He got to 21.
And bogey, but
wow.
Yeah. Like that's
amazing.
Yeah. And the fact that it's like an elevated status, which I mean, that could mean a whole bunch of stuff, but I know they get extra FedEx Cup points, all that stuff. But I think the biggest highlight is obviously the GOAT hosting, and, being able to give you the trophy, I think is really cool too. And just adds to like everyone, just really puts us up. Like Spee said, I think he said it's his top 3 favorite courses of all time, which is obviously, which is saying something. So it's a good, really cool tournament, and kind of a good last like kickoff, and kind of, well, I guess ending the West Coast, and before they go to, the East Coast, go to Florida. And I, to be honest, personally kind of check out a little bit when it comes to those tournaments, just being, I guess, sort of from the West Coast, can kind of relate, but then they go to those tournaments out in Florida. I'm like, I don't really know what that type of golf is like. So,
and it's kind of a cool fact on Riviera too. It's slated to host the Olympics, because the Summer Olympics in 2028 are going to be in Los Angeles, and so Riviera is actually going to be the golf course that they play the tournament at. So that's going to be pretty fun. Yeah, I think it'll be a little different than some of I don't know where they're playing in Paris, but I know in some of these Olympic venues, it just feels, I guess the last Summer Olympics was a little different because it was very limited crowds or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I remember thinking back to like the Brazil Olympics when golf came back, and they built a course for it. It just felt, I don't know, it just felt a little like watered down maybe, or something. But I think it'll be cool to come to an established course like Riviera, have the Olympics, and hopefully have a full crowd. I think that should make for a pretty exciting atmosphere.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be sick. So I think my boy Adam Scott, I think he pulled through and got
nice pick. He was your wild card pick, and he's got, obviously likes that place as well, because I think I heard this right, but that was the last time he won was at Riviera. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was. When it was.
2020, and he also won it in like way back in like 2005, but it wasn't. They had to cancel it. It didn't go the full
Oh,
72. I
okay.
think it was just like 36 holes. So it wasn't, I don't even know if they count it as an official win. Maybe they do. I'm not really sure, but I do know he had that experience. And then, yeah, in 2020 was able to win. And this week, yeah, played well, even with that disgusting thing he was putting with. I mean, I don't even want to call it a putter. Those lab putters, man, just
He's always
barf.
cycling through various broomstick looking like putters.
I don't get it. I don't get how you can putt with something like that.
I know, and it just, and I don't know. I know the whole anchoring thing is banned, but it's highly suspect, man. He gets it up there. It's like, I don't know, man. He might be pretty close to maybe anchoring. I think maybe not. I don't know, but it just is like, it's just a little weird, and just that thing is just so ugly, and like that prototype is just, and like I said, like I think it was it's Lab's approach at making a more conventional looking putter, which is jarring because that's anything but conventional. But I guess judging from their first one, maybe it's better. I don't know. It's bad. I'd rather three putt with a Scotty. I don't care. Talk about brand loyalty. I'll three putt all day. Give me Scotty.
As someone that's now had a Scotty for 11 years and three putted pretty much every green since then, like, yeah, I'm right there with you.
You guys are amazing putters.
Oh man, no, that's your forte, Pierce. But yeah, anything else on the course or about the tournament? Like,
Yeah, just
one. But what are your
one other little subtle thing? I like how water doesn't really come into play on any holes. I like that. I don't know why. I'm not a huge water on the golf course kind of guy. I think it can have its moments, especially think of something like the island green at Sawgrass. That's a pretty cool thing. But for the most part, I think sometimes it almost looks a little forced on golf courses, but it's kind of nice to see a lot of kind of natural hazards or whatnot, and using a lot of the bunkering they do in the fairways, I think is pretty sick. It just looks cool, especially all the drone shots you get of the course. I think it's just a cool looking course. It looks like something that'd be really fun to play.
Yeah. And the fact that it doesn't have to have all this manufactured water on it and can still stand the test of time. Like still in 2022 with how far the dudes hit the ball, it still makes for a really good tournament, which says a lot. So yeah, I agree. And like you said, speaking of a lot of water on the golf course, going to Florida. So this upcoming week is the Honda, and there is it PGA National. That's the course they play, right? With the famous bear trap, 15, 16, 17, obviously super tough stretch. And yeah, I would need a full case of or a bag of balls to make it through that stretch with how windy and how tough that is. So, yeah, anyway, let's make some picks for that and talk about it real quick. So I guess I'll go first because I was lucky enough with Adam Scott. So my first pick is just seems like just a solid classic pick of Sung Jae Im. The guy just plays like seemingly every week and is always right there. So that's my first round draft pick there. Pierce.
I'm gonna go with Ryan Palmer. I feel like this is the type of tournament that guy could win. I don't know. He's pretty solid, so I can see it happening. I'm gonna go with Palmer.
Like it.
All right, my first pick, go with Matthew Wolff. I know he kind of had a lull toward the end of last season, but he seems to be back and playing a little better. So roll with him.
Like it. I like it. I'll go with JT Poston. Guy's crazy good putter, and seems like he's I think he's from he's a Georgia boy, but kind of similar.
It's all
layout.
the same. Georgia, Florida.
It's
one giant. Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll go with him.
I'm gonna go with Tommy Fleetwood. Love the hair. He's a stud, and he can hit the ball a mile.
Shout out Fairway Jesus. Probably the coolest nickname on tour. So
amazing. Love it.
All right. Second pick for me. I got to go with my boy, Harry Higgs. I have to shout him out at least once every pot. So this time I'll pick him.
Take your shirt off.
For sure.
That shirt off.
He had a pretty cool moment this tournament. He was 5 over going into his back nine of round 2. and he made 2 eagles and a birdie to make the cut right on the number. So that was pretty fun to see. So
Good vibes going in the next week.
Hopefully he's carrying some momentum.
A good juju.
I like it. I'm gonna go with Keith Mitchell. Hate the pants. He's got to do Taylor's got to do something with those pants. They are so bad. But I think he's won this tournament, and same thing. He's there with JT Poston kind of in the Southeast corridor. So I'll go with him.
Nice. I'm gonna go with Brooksy, aka Brooks Koepka, not Bryson. I Brooks is always a solid pick. He can always win a tournament. He's a guy you can always root on and count on. He's pretty solid.
Nice. I'll roll with Johnny Vegas. Seems to be someone that randomly competes in a few tournaments every year. So maybe fingers crossed they get lucky with the pick this week.
I like that guy. Shout out to him. He signed my I had like a little seat cushion when I like first started playing golf. It was like the web.com tour. It was at Willow Creek. And I went and he had like an interview, and I was like, this guy looks like a buff tiger. Like, I don't know who he is, but will you sign this? And he did. And turns out he's big Johnny Vegas. So he's tight. My last pick, I'm gonna go. This is a sleeper pick, a dark horse, the rat, Kiradek, Uppy Barn Rat, my boy, just gonna be taking rips from the Jewel Pod. It's got to shout him out. I can just only hope to see some just clouds of some nice candy.
I hope he's getting sponsor money from them too, because he's putting them on the map.
100%.
It's amazing. He's a star. I love watching him. I'm gonna go with Daniel Berger. He's another good one too, who can go low. So I think he has a good chance.
All right, for my last pick, I know it's not 2016 anymore, but I'm gonna go with Ricky Fowler.
Richard Flowers?
Richard Flowers.
Longer than you've been alive.
How long you been caddying here? Longer than you've been alive.
I couldn't get through it. Yeah, I'm gonna go Ricky Fowler, mostly on the basis of I watch a lot of golf, and I did not recognize a lot of names on the participant list this coming week. So he was one I did. He's trying to get back on track. So who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
I like it. We'll see. It is kind of hard. Like, yeah, this last week, pretty safe throwing some picks out there. Someone's going to top 5, someone's going to top 10 with all the strength of field. But this is definitely more of low key. People taking some time off to move east for that swing. So anyway, hope it's good.
You always knew it was going to be tough too, because the fields the last couple of weeks have been pretty strong. And then you've got a couple really big tournaments coming up. So there's always going to be a down week in there somewhere. And it's looking like this is going to be the week. So.
For sure. And especially like, you have this week and then one more and then the players. So like, in addition, all that stuff, like, I think it's definitely time to kind of get them prepped up. And, it's hard to have a golf podcast and not, the dang Saudis, man. It just keeps coming back and it just won't go away. And it's just, just to see what came out this week with Phil Mickelson and just the incredible quote that came from that, the excerpt of that book, which is wow. Like, no words, just utter disbelief. And like, okay, all this, you're saying all this, you're calling them scary MFs to get involved with. And what a transition to say, and I still want to do this because it gives us, a chance of a lifetime to impact the way the PGA Tour is ran. Like, wow, what a transition there, guy, on them executing people for being gay, knowingly executing these CNN reporters, and then, wow, but hey, what an opportunity of a lifetime. Like that. Again, it's just hard. Like, I don't even want to talk about it, but it's like hard to just ignore like that this is still going on. And, he's certain that it's, he doesn't even really want it to flourish or to prosper, but it's just like, dude, like, what is this? So I don't know. It's hard to ignore. And then Bryson today comes out with, that he pledges his allegiance to the PGA Tour, which just, if that guy can make one okay, decision, we applaud him. Like, I want to like him. I really do, but he makes it really hard.
That's how crazy Phil's comments were, because I don't know for sure, but it seemed like there were pretty strong rumblings that Dustin Johnson and Bryson were pretty on board with this new thing.
Yeah.
And so Phil's comments were so out there that it took the two biggest names that were potentially going to join this new league. It got them out of the league. So Phil Mickelson may have just burned that bridge as well. So really, that's my favorite thing of this whole thing. I just want to watch Phil's legacy just continue to crash and burn. And it's pure entertainment at this point.
Yeah. Just
with all his, he can thumbs up into the sunset for all I care, honestly, at this point.
Pound his coffee.
We'll all give you a different salute, Phil. Just go away.
It's hard because like I can't help but like I liked Phil Mickelson. Like I came into like, I don't know, he just seemed like, because I missed the whole prime Tiger. Like that was not part of my golf experience. Like I came in, like the only thing I really saw him win was that 2008 US Open. I was like right as I was kind of getting into golf, which was cool, but like, it's like I don't get this big buzz about this guy. And like I was wanting to cheer for the hefty lefty, like I was thinking this guy was just so cool. It just seemed like, like he'll buy hot dogs and beers for everyone that was following him, like little stuff like that. You just hear what the PGA Tour wants you to hear about, their big star. So it was hard not to like the guy. And it's just crazy to see like kind of some real side of him. And it's unfortunate and a little distasteful, but it is what it is. So
I think Phil's in deep with some loan sharks.
Yeah. It has to
fuel his gambling habits.
Yeah, like Pat Perez, he made like a comment about like, he didn't really get Phil's comments, didn't really agree with it. Was like, dude, the guy's made so much money from the PGA Tour, but I think he said he has a lot of stress in his life right now, and we know about his gambling and some other stuff. So he must really just need it that bad, which is shocking, but it is what it is. So
was that the same thing? Did you see I think it was Pat Perez, where he said something like, honestly, if some guys want to jump to this new league, there's a long line of dudes that can fill their place.
Fill it right.
And I thought that was pretty cool, because it's probably true. There's so many good golfers out there, and it's just so many of them can't ever really get that opportunity to shine, because it's pretty hard to break into the tour.
Oh yeah. And to
get your card. Just to get the status.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of guys that could play on the tour that don't necessarily get an opportunity on a regular basis.
For sure. And who could be the next, so I think it's all just about a comfort thing. Like all these guys are all so good, and like the difference between a good like Korn Ferry Tour guy and the PGA Tour, like look what Scotty Scheffler did, like becoming like the player of the year on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then naturally just such a natural transition to the PGA Tour. I think that is just becoming, having some comfort and playing with these guys, and like you see that stuff from like Max and how Brooks kind of approached it. So it's like, who is the next Brooks? Who's the next Max Homa, these guys that don't have that opportunity. So it's like, yeah, dude, if Phil, if you want to leave, Ian Poulter, you want to leave, Lee Westwood, you want to leave, Jason Kokrak, like, dude, I could care less to watch you play golf. So dope. Let's get some younger dudes in here and get to know them and make some more, cool stories and get more guys like that on tour than these has-beens that, are way past their prime. So yeah, it's like good riddance, dude. Good luck. Peace. Like, that's fine. So yeah, I loved it, and don't love a ton of stuff about Pat Perez, but I do love that. So shout out to Pat.
Pat Perez.
Anyway, but yeah, I think that's good. Like I said, we could definitely go into more on that. I know Shawn, he's just at the edge of his seat. He's got more thoughts, but I think we've covered a good amount tonight, and we'll kind of wrap it up. But and next week should be cool. We have a cool guest planned, someone that we know pretty well, Shawn and I, and has some special insight, is being working in the airline industry and has some really cool experiences with golf. So it's going to be looking forward to that. It's going to be cool. But anything else, boys, or any shout outs that we want to give before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Tiger Woods. I thought he looked pretty good on the broadcast. Kind of stark in contrast to what he looked like last year. And we know what happened literally next day or two after.
Not even a full day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought he looked good. He seemed like he was in pretty good spirits. I got freaking sick of Nance trying to ask when he was going to come back and play in the tour. Like, Nance, we don't care. There's so many other things you could ask him right now. He's going to come back when he wants to come back. I'm not worried about that at all. Like, he can still swing a club, and it sounds like he's really just taking things day by day, playing when he can and just enjoying it. It was just good to see him happy. And as someone that, honestly, I would be fine if he never teed it up in another tour event. I'd like to see him in situations like this more, where he seems happy and he's got so much insight. Anytime he's on with like Ian Baker Finch and all these like old time tour guys that Tiger's played with before. Yeah. And Tiger's recollection of rounds of golf he played with these guys like 25 or 30 years ago, it's incredible. And I could just sit and listen to Tiger on the like, there's so much more that Tiger could offer a broadcast than Nance asking stupid questions. And just, it was cool to see. I'm happy that he looked good.
Yeah. All things considered, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Golf is so, seeing him tee it up another tour event, just like, let's be honest, like just struggling to maybe make the cut. It's just like, dude, we don't really, like, what does that really do for us? Like, we'll get more people there, but exactly. The rich insight that dude has is like nobody else. So I totally agree. Good shout out. Love it. Yeah. Pierce.
Wild. Yeah. I was just going to touch on what Shawn said a little bit about Tiger Woods. Obviously like that guy's like someone I love to watch play golf, and that's the reason why I got into it, a lot of it. But Phil Mickelson won the PGA Championship this last year, and I just think deep down, that probably pissed Tiger off a little bit. So when he comes back, we could maybe see him have another good run at the Masters. I would not doubt it. It would be amazing. So I don't know, man. It'd be sweet.
You never know. You never know with that guy. Like,
my hope is St. Andrews is the return. Flattish, short course. Yeah. Maybe that's the return. That would be pretty special.
Very good point.
Yeah. Never say never with that guy. I learned that because, dude, I was, like I said, I come from just such a, that post Tiger era. And so I remember talking to you, Pierce. I'm like, dude, he'll be lucky if he ever wins a PGA event. He'll never win a major again. And, we all know how that went. So anyway, that's anything else, boys, or should we wrap it up?
I just feel like we keep going longer and longer each episode. It's wild.
It's a lot easier than people think. And again, if you're still listening, thank you. We love you. And we got some exciting things in the works that we're excited about to come out soon. But anyway, well, again, appreciate it, boys. It's always good, always a pleasure. Kind of get this little podcast high when I end this. So
hey, this is the closest I'm getting to playing golf right now. So this is perfect.
Pretty good alternative, man.
Oh man, we all need to get out and play soon.
We'll do it. All right, boys.
Peace.
Thanks for having me.